you guys are essentially the bridge and the voice of reason when it comes to talking to our elected officials on the Hill. You guys have the right agenda in mind when you're talking to them, correct?
We do. And unfortunately, excuse me, little frog in my throat. Unfortunately, they're not always as cyber astute as we'd like to think they are.
Right.
There are some congressional leaders like Mike McCall from Texas and Mark Warner from Virginia, Lucan Myers, Tom Graves from here in Georgia. There are some representatives who really understand the cybersecurity issues, but there, for a lot of them, it's vague.
They look at it as a national defense issue. Do they? I mean, is that how do you perceive the officials who aren't really well informed about cyber? Where do you see them kind of point the finger when it comes to cyber?
Well, I think part of the challenge is a lot of times they point the finger at the company. I mean, at the end of the day, for all of the bad publicity that Equifax got, let's start with the premise that Equifax was a victim of a crime.
Correct.
Let's start there. I mean, you can argue how they managed it, but the reality is they were a victim of a crime. If I were to put a fence around my house and an alarm system on my house and somebody breaks in, the cops that come to my house aren't going to look at me as if I'm the criminal. They're going to look at me as a victim. And yet our companies are building all of these security measures in order to protect their companies, and then they get breached, and yet some federal officials, whether it's the FBI or the CIA, et cetera, will approach them as if they're the people who've done something wrong. So we really need to change that ethos and paradigm.
I'm writing down Equifax was the victim of the crime because of everyone who I've done this podcast with. You're the first to come in here and actually make a very valid point. Regardless of how they reacted, regardless of the aftermath of that breach, they were still a victim of a crime. A group of criminals decided to take advantage of that company, period. The CyberHub Engage podcast is brought to you by CyberHub Summit. CyberHub Summit is the leading executive cybersecurity education forum hosting their second annual event in Atlanta, Georgia on October 10th. You can find out more at cyberhubsummit.com.